start off React Andy for this day. Comes to us from Deerest Ashe. I did say that right, correct? Because their whole thing is that they're deer. This video is talking about how killers aren't trying to be mean, which is something that I talked about on my own channel yesterday, talking about why DBD is unhealthy right now. This video in particular is really, really funny because I have been told that I make an appearance in this video. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty neat. So please make sure you click that link to like and subscribe to this creator to make sure you are supporting the official release of this video if we're going to be watching it live on stream.
Killers aren't assholes. Killers who slow down are not assholes.
Not one-to-one.
Killers who slug are not assholes.
But they can be.
Killers who tunnel are not assholes. Good afternoon, evening, guys, gals, and non-binary pals.
Hey,
Ashe, and today
I always say that.
Talk about
what I'm talking about, like him, her,
insane amount of hate killers are getting for doing anything that can help win their matches. I want to ask you this: how often have you or someone you know said these things? This fucking toxic killer is tunneling me out. Wow, slugging for the 4K. You're so bad, kid. Wow,
yeah, some of those
this
today.
fucking loser is bringing pain, res, grim embrace, pop. How much regression do you need? You're so bad at the game that you have to tunnel someone out. Killers always have to play like assholes. Killer mains can't have fun.
People in Dead by Daylight play really intensely and take the game a little too seriously. It's not a sides thing, it is just a game.
Killers make this game so boring. They're playing like an asshole if they have to camp.
The main thing here, the elephant in the room that obviously needs to be discussed, is like playing a certain way in the video game does not mean you are a bad person. The way you play in a video game does not speak to who you are outside of the game. That is not, like, as long as you're cordial in the after game chat, that's all that matters. Or sorry, in game chat, I didn't use the proper wording again. That got me about destroyed on YouTube the last time I did that, so we're not doing that again. Gotta get all the terminology pinpoint right, even if they're synonyms, or else I am just the worst creator ever. Anyways, moving on.
Don't get me wrong, there's plenty of killers that will bash survivors for trying to survive and help their teammates with flashy saves, pallet stuns, or body blocking sabo plays. But they also do not understand that's what survivors need to do in order to help each other win. Killers who only play killer and never look at the other side are like this. Sadly, it's painfully common in the DBD community for survivors to just start attacking someone's character without even considering why the killer is playing the way they are. Watch a survivor mainstream or even some Vlog Whisperers who only play Survivor, and sometimes you'll hear some abhorrent things
vents or control stations. Yeah, what? So the reference there is that Grace is talking about is that for some reason behavior in the Xenomorph just does in all descriptions for the Xenomorph does not know what is what and refers to it by so many different names. So sometimes they talk about control stations when referring to the tunnels. Sometimes they talk about the tunnels when referring to the control stations, and they also use the word vents, which is nowhere in the Xenomorph's description besides one add-on. So what are the vents? Are those the tunnels? Are those control stations? What are they? They just their verbiage is just so all over the place with that character, and it's really weird. Also, they refer to the Xenomorph's power as its official name as Hidden Pursuit. You know where that shows up? Nowhere. Besides there. That's it. It's just the official name. Every other version of anything referred to the Xenomorph's power is specific, like the control stations, like the tail attacks. They don't ever refer to anything in the Xenomorph's power as Hidden Pursuit at all, besides this is the Xenomorph's power. This is the add-on that helps the Xenomorph's power, Hidden Pursuit. It's that wasn't even in the guide until this week, because quite frankly, Behavior, I think, forgot they named it that and don't use that terminology anywhere else. Oh, DBD.
Who all band together to shit on the killer. There's been countless videos and callouts on survivors being horribly hateful towards killers, and sadly it's only causing more and more people to treat killers the same way. And sadly, as of late, killers are needing to play more and more unfun playstyles in order to win consistently, leading to more harassment from said people. When generators take a maximum of 90 seconds to finish, even less with the abundance of gen progression perks, items, and add-ons, it's no wonder so many killers need to build pressure in other ways, be it progression, camping, slugging, or even tunneling. When the killer starts the match, they are at the weakest possible state in the game. 4 survivors can spawn in completely opposite corners of the map, full toolboxes, full pallets, full health, and to some degree a bit of stealth on their side. Finding a survivor without lethal and initiating a chase can take up to 20 to 30 seconds minimum, and that's not even counting things like exhaustion perks, pallets, strong loops, downing the survivor and carrying to the hook. And God forbid they have boil over and that they're unhookable, or a teammate comes to save them off your shoulder. And if they do get that hook and they do get pain res, 1 generator will regress by 20%, while 2 other gens can already be 80% done. It's very common for killers to have a decent chase at the start of the game and end up losing 1 gen before even hooking someone.
I generally don't understand in 2024 how people say that the game is not survivor sided. I think when people think about like the game as quote unquote killer sided, I think they're thinking of specifically like Nurse Blight Spirit, like top 3, top 5 killers. For the rest of the roster, it's kind of a pain to play by daylight as killer. It just is. I think it's also reflected in the fact that solo queue is still the weakest role in the game. So people play solo queue and just get a bad view of the survivor role in general in terms of its strength because you're playing the weakest form of play in the game. But even being in a duo is like better than most killers in the game. It's rough.
Sometimes even 2 gens if a chase was particularly rough, because even with full regression, a team of survivors will still be able to knock out gens if the killer cannot pressure them.
I believe the game said the game was killer side. Did he actually say that, Slasher? And when did they say that? If they said that during Overbright Interruption, probably. I can see that. But like, was that a recent thing? Because that I don't see odds with, you know, all the hours experience that he has making that wrong of a statement. That's intriguing.
Tool is pressure.
Going through the archives.
And without pressure,
where's my source? Where's my source? Where's my source?
Free to sit on gens unabated. Forcing survivors to make plays and get off gens is how the killers win their matches. Ideally, killers could hook everyone 12 times, but that's not how DBD works at this moment. For the constant nerfs to regression, other forms of slowdown, and the constant addition of generated rushing perks, killers are feeling more and more pressure to force survivors into situations they do not enjoy. Most killers would love to 12 hook everyone, but 12 hooking is not how killers are rewarded. Being a nice killer is how you get 4-man outed while they teabag, flashlight, noise spam you, and talk shit in the in-game chat.
That's crazy.
Do you mind, like, there you go. Like, you clearly won, just leave. Just leave and exit, please. You're wasting my time and your time. Don't you love survivors? Please leave. Thank you. Killers are not rewarded for playing nice. And if there's no incentive to play nice, then why would they do it? With more anti-tunnel
I would say that, like, even like some of like the A tier killers, like the lower AT killers, against good teams, still like they get bodied. But like a 3 or a 4 man, they get absolutely destroyed. That's crazy. I can't.
Into the meta, killers are having a harder and harder time pressuring survivors. A majority of high MMR players know that tunneling and slugging are common tactics, and it's why you'll see more and more and more of it the more you play killer. Many survivors would say, well, just don't tunnel and chase someone else, while completely ignoring the fact that many players in the higher MMRs will use their anti-tunneling mechanics offensively, with the buff to decisive strike, off the record having an insane duration, and people also combining these things with dead hard and unbreakable, to where you're punished for chasing someone new because their teammate with 3 safety measures is body blocking you, forcing you to down them. Trying to avoid the DS by slugging them only leads to them using unbreakable to get up scot-free, without penalty and wasting the killer's time. And remember, ladies and gentlemen,
match time is gen time. Anytime you're not doing anything, actively pressuring the survivor. That guy's pretty ugly. What happened to him? All into Nevada acid or something? Gross. as killer, that is time in the background. The survivors are spraying on gens.
Despite what many people think, killers do not slug and tunnel to be assholes. They slug and tunnel because there's no other way to build pressure. Yes, there's plenty of people who slug and tunnel with the express purpose of being an asshole, but we're not talking.
Xenomorph and match time is gen time. That is my legacy. Match time is gen time is going to be on my gravestone. Match time was gen time. I spent my time well.
About them right now. During the in-game collapse, the killer has to camp the last survivor on hook because that's their objective. It's literally nothing personal. It has nothing to do with the killer being toxic. When the gens are gone, their only objective left is to at least get a single kill. And by leaving the hook, not only is the killer throwing by doing that, but they have literally nothing else to do. Staying by the hook.
How should the average game with 5 good players go? Generally, if we had the ideal world where, like, you know, everything was like mostly balanced and the game tracked like the right things like altruism and chase and hooks over just the results, like we'd have sometimes you would win, sometimes you would lose, but ideally all of the wins and losses would be close. So we'd have, like, you know, 10 hook games and then some people got out, or, you know, some kind of like that where it's like the results are closer together.
More hook trades and more hook trade states, adding more pressure to the survivor team to either leave them or risk dying trying to constantly exchange. And I already know how a few people are already typing in the comments, I'm just an entitled killer main complaint.
Joke's on you. Some people have already just read the title of your video and just commented in anyway without reading it or watching. They haven't done anything. They're just like, oop, title.
Nerf the game's too hard and that survivors need to be nerfed. I play both sides very frequently. I have many survivors prestiged farther than most of my killers. Killers do not like having to run regression perks. Killers do not like having to run slowdown. Killers do not like having to touch.
At the time of recording, right now, the gen bug is still in the game. We're the one where you get down to like somebody leaves the tally screen and you can just like have multiple gens pop. My brain is breaking today trying to like avoid it entirely because I'm not running regression, because like running regression and killing somebody early is not beneficial right now because you are buffing their gen value. And I'm just like, my head is I want to run this, but it's people are just slamming the gens now.
And I even asked some well-known people in the community how they felt about it.
And yo, Deerest, welcome in. Hi, may I ask your opinion? Do you think killers enjoy having to tunnel or camp to put pressure on the match? And are they at fault for having to tunnel someone else? Lots of survivors will attack a killer's character for trying to play optimally. It's a really good question.
Don't use claws. What's wrong with you?
I kind of feel like I should answer in two parts here. So do you think killers enjoy having to tunnel or camp? I think the answer is probably no. There are going to be people out there that just enjoy getting something out of the game as quickly as possible, but for the most part, I don't think people enjoy having to tunnel. I think that's part of the problem, right? Is that like there are going to be scenarios playing as many killers where you are put in a situation where the only way to really bring back some pressure is the tunnel, right? If I'm playing as someone like Trapper and I'm playing on a large map like Ormond and there are 3 survivors working on 3 separate gens on the furthest corners of the map, realistically, I need to try and get the pressure in my side, and so I'm probably going to need to tunnel someone. It's not because I enjoy it, it's just that is the optimal strategy. I think as far as like the second point with like are they at fault for having to tunnel? Not at all, right? Like clearly tunneling is an aspect of the game that the devs not so much encourage, very much realize the existence of and are fine with. Hence why there are so many perks that prevent tunneling, right? That's why BT exists, that's why DS exists, off the record, reassurance, right? Whatever. I mean reassurance is more camping, but clearly it's something the devs are kind of, you know, okay with being in the game, and I think it's healthy to have something to put more pressure on the survivors, right? Like the issue being is that if you are playing a survivor and you manage to get like 3 gens done and the killer's got 1 hook, if the killer physically couldn't tunnel, there wouldn't really be any pressure. There wouldn't be any fear in losing anymore, right? You basically won the game before it's even over.
Ooh, yeah.
And so like with that fear of, oh shit, someone might be out of the game soon, like that could be kind of, it kind of adds like an extra layer of like threat to the game, which I think is healthy. I think the problem also is to do with like people's self-awareness on knowing when tunneling is something that the killer should be doing, right? If I'm playing a survivor and the killer has 1 hook, right, or 2 hooks or whatever, and there are 4 gens down, if I get tunneled because I'm the only person that's been hooked, also that would have been sick. Like at that point, I understand.
Yeah, he was missing.
Right? The killer needs to get pressure, otherwise the game's over. You know, so how can I complain if the survivors are already in? If my team is already in a much better position anyway, how can I complain? You know, it's the same as camping, right? Like if the last gen's pops and the killer's camping, like what other options do they really have? You know,
go guard the doors for him.
Killers enjoy running slowdown, tunneling, slugging for pressure, or they kind of force it in most cases. So 99% of killers are forced into slowdown builds. Tunneling is way too vague of a concept to ask if someone enjoys it or not, and slugging is pretty much in the same boat.
How do they go by the day, Corey?
I don't think I've ever met a single person that says they enjoy running slowdown, though.
I don't think the process is particularly fun. It's just something you have to do. There are games that are unwinnable unless you like throw on a couple gen slow and tunnel someone. That is something no one can argue. Some games you literally do have to play like that to win. There's absolutely no actual counter argument to that. No one could ever refute that. It's just true. It sucks. I wish there were better methods that were more fun for everybody. Like, that sucks. But that's just how it is. Sometimes you gotta do it. You'll lose otherwise. Can't 12 stage against good teams. Yeah. Ideally, we'd all 12 hook every team and get our first kill on the 9th hook. You know, that's ideal, but that only works against mediocre teams.
Yep.
I mean, I think in a lot of scenarios, if you're doing it for pressure, and like you know that you're throwing the game if you don't tunnel or camp.
This is what I was on about earlier, like with like weak builds and build requests. It's just like it's so frustrating because I know, especially when it's like I'm not playing like a top 3, top 10 killer, like running a funny I'm just going to throw for fun build isn't actually fun for me because I know I stand basically no chance of winning unless the players are bad. So it's a big dice roll. It's a big gamble. Winning isn't everything. Having fun is important. But like if I legitimately stand 0 chance of winning or barely any chance of winning because I'm running a silly zany build on like a bottom 5, bottom 3 killer, like it's a bad time for me. I don't enjoy it because I know I'm just going to get absolutely bodied and destroyed by the survivors. Winning isn't everything, but also losing horrendously feels bad. So it feels like garbage to run builds that should theoretically be fun, but because it's so like the things the other people will bring will be so strong, you don't even get a chance to like do the things you want to do to have fun with that build, which is why I always harp on like, please don't give me builds like that, because it's just like I'm just going to have a bad time because like I'm just unfortunately at a position where I play this game every day. I win a majority of my matches, so my MMR is just probably past that soft cap and continuing to go, right? So running 0 slowdown on like a bot 3 killer is just going to get me bodied, and it's just going to be a bad time. I'm not going to be happy, and I'm going to be grumpy the whole time, and the person that requested is probably not going to be happy because I'm just getting absolutely destroyed using your build. So it's just, I don't know, it's just frustrating. It's just really, really frustrating, and it's a symptom of the game's greater lack of balance overall.
Wrong with that, to be honest. There's nothing wrong with doing anything in a video game. That being said, there are certain things that do just, like if you're at 5 gens and you're nursed with 4 slowdown, and you decide to just tunnel out the first person you see for efficiency, quote unquote, you are playing like an asshole. In point blank period. You're playing like a dick. It's happening.
I don't know if I agree with that. I don't think it inherently makes you a mean person outside the game, because if there was a ranked mode, like there would be some people that would just go play the ranked mode, right? And that's where they would stay. They would just go over and stay in the ranked mode, only play the ranked mode. But there's currently no way to just queue up into other sweaty people and Dead by Daylight naturally. You just have to go play the general queue that everybody's in because there's only one queue. So that does present kind of an issue for people that just enjoy the more intense gameplay in Dead by Daylight, because there's no place for them to go right now.
I think it depends from scenario to scenario. But I don't think killers enjoy running slowdown, just like the survivors. Well, I don't know. I guess some second chances can kind of be fun to use, but slowdown on killer is just kind of a necessity rather than a fun thing to use. I'm sure if like it wasn't a
most slowdown is mechanically boring. Pop is like quite literally walking over and pressing spacebar in a gen, right? It doesn't enhance the game in any way. It's just a tax you have to play to continue to play the game. The actual activation and use of it, like there's nothing to it. It's a nothing burger. But you run it, it helps you win your games. You can play comp though, no, but that comp isn't very accessible though. You know what I'm saying, Thick Thighs? Comp isn't very accessible, and it hasn't been for a while. There's a few instances where it's starting to get more accessible, like with Tofu doing the open scrims and stuff like that. But comp is not a very accessible side of the DVD community. I know someone that I know. I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about, but because somebody's working on a project where they're trying to get in contact with somebody who's willing to help them on the comp side of things, just for like a video, and they're having a hard time getting in contact with anybody and getting somebody who's willing to do it. So it's just like, I don't know, just one of those things where it's trying to chase down an informal community made aspect of the game when nothing's readily available is kind of like not a good solution. You know, like I think that's I'm not trying to like super harp on your point, but to kind of just say, I want to play the game sweaty, but I have to be in the in crowd of this super exclusive, not very popular side of the community and navigate the community, especially as an introvert. I don't like that as an answer. You know what I'm saying? Like, it would be much more accessible if you could just queue it, open up the game, and there's something in DBD that's like a mode that is specifically played by the rules that the comp players use. That way I don't have to have friends in the comp community or find somebody in the comp community who's willing to, kind of grandfather me in. Early morning? Okay, just making sure. I know some people, one of the unfortunate things about the Dead by Daylight community is a lot of the time people take disagreement personally, and it's just kind of stressful. So, yeah. But even charity tournaments is like, you gotta know somebody, right? Like, I've done a few charity tournaments, but like, there's also charity tournaments I'm not invited to that I would have liked to have been a part of, because it's just based on who you know, right? And I remember there were other creators that were asking me, like, how do I get into one of these charity tournaments on purpose? And I'm like, you just got to know people, because usually what happens, the way charity tournaments are often run, is like the organizer knows people in the community, knows creators that they like. They offer them positions as team captains, and they let the team captains kind of pick whoever they want. So besides the 5+ people that are team captains, like, everything is who knows who. And even then you could argue like who knows who is how that starts too, because it's just the organizer and who they know and who they want to be in their tournament. It's even that's not really accessible, even on the charity side of things.
If slowdown was not something that was needed in any match whatsoever, people would enjoy just running other stuff like aura reading or fucking I don't know, it just kind of depends. Deerest, like in the scenario of you're down 3 gens and no one is dead, yeah, no. What else are you gonna do other than try to get someone out early?
This is what's been stressing me out today with not even today, but like this whole time this gen bug's been out. It's like, yeah, you do need somebody dead by 2 gens, but if you do that now, you get punished. Well, like your hands are even further tied, because now you can't even do that, because then now the gens are counting for extra. It's ridiculous.
I mean, most of the game is progressed by that point, but you don't really have another choice there. Unless you just want to throw. What else are you going to do other than try to get someone out early?
Oh, no.
By early, I mean,
OBS is supposedly crashing, even though it's still up, which is funny.
You don't really have another choice there. Unless you just want to throw. I guess that's an option. But other than that, not really much of a choice. But you don't need my opinion on that.
If that actually got introduced as like an actual
the
mechanic,
fact that you're curious about it means that you want to have the other side somewhat enjoying the game as well. You don't want it to be miserable for everyone. So at the very least, you have some form of empathy there by asking that question.
I really want survivors to know that this is not your fault, and this is not the killer's fault. It sadly comes down to the game design, unfortunately. And instead of the constant us versus them mentality this community is plagued with, we really, really need to look at the game as a whole for everyone. I'm sure a lot of people are wondering why I even made this video, and that's because for the longest time, I was like the people I'm describing here. Someone who would get mad, blame the killer, call them an asshole without even considering what's happening in the game. But
I used to be that way in reverse. Super killer biased.
I've gained a broader perspective on the game as a whole, and I just want everyone to enjoy the game. If you're a survivor main, I'd really like to challenge you for the next season whenever this takes place. I want you to main killer. Really main killer, not play a match or two and then go back to survivor. Genuinely main killer with the goal of hitting Eerie 1 and getting your favorite 3 killers to at least Prestige 9, which is all the rewards for that killer. And I want to see if your perspective has changed at all in that time. And killers, I encourage you to do the same. The best way we can get rid of this whole us versus them mentality is to understand one another. I just want people to understand that just because a player has to do something that isn't fun for you, doesn't mean they're being an asshole, and it doesn't mean they're trying to upset you. That's just what happens to ensure a win sometimes. At the same time, avoiding...
I think in general, assuming the character of a person behind the scenes because of the way they play in a video game is so silly. Like, it doesn't make you a bad person just because you play to win in a video game. That's such a jump, and it's just so out of place in this community. Every other game, like, that's not like playing to win is the point, but in DBD we like shame people for playing to win, and it's just so weird.
Being good sports and not attacking people for playing in a way you don't like would be a great start. After all, as we all
assuming that they're bad people because of that is
you don't have anything nice to say, don't say
Bully squads aren't really playing to win most of the time though. They're playing to make you miserable. Hey, Dizzy.
Thank you for your time, guys.
How's it going, fun?
I do plan on making more videos in the future. It took me a while to figure out how to put this video together, and hopefully
waiting me. You know what's funny? You were here earlier. So you started editing a stream, and I am still here. Xeno guy, but Bran
I enjoyed it, and I hope I can make more fun content like this in the future. Let me know what you guys think about this whole tunneling and camping subject in the comments below. But yeah, until then, I will see you guys later.
Bye bye. Yeah, I don't understand why people, whether like killer and survivor, I don't understand why people assume the content of somebody's character based on how they play in a game. That's just silly. That's just like not something you should ever do. I think it's crazy that I think DBD is not the most toxic gaming sphere. Believe me, I've played MOBAs, I've played FPSs. I think Siege is probably the worst community I've ever been in, because like Siege was like every other game I was getting like not toxic, not even just toxicity towards me, but toxicity was happening to someone, right? And it wasn't just like, oh well, you're sweaty. It was like literally like slurs, very serious insults, telling people to off themselves, pretty serious stuff. League, yeah, second worst I ever had was Dota. Dota 2 was like my second worst community I've ever been in. Yeah, Siege is the worst. Dota 2 is probably the second worst. But yeah, in terms of like just outright in terms of like outright like toxicity, it's not DBD. There are worse ones, but in terms of Dead by Daylight, they're just the most like socially maladjusted, immature people I have ever met in gaming. That I will say. Like, cannot read the room, do not get social cues, just don't get it. Like nothing. Like that, like this, like a leap in logic that happens with almost pervasively across the entire community is if you tunnel at 5 gens, you're a bad person. If you slam gens and never see the killer, you're a bad person. You can say it's sweaty. You can say it's boring. You can say it's frustrating. You're allowed to feel about the game however you want to feel. But to say that they're a bad person behind the screen because of that, like, no. I haven't touched it in years. I had like 600-900 hours, something like that. It was an odd number. Maybe it was 7. It was in between. I think I said odd number and I said 6. My brain's not functioning today. But yeah, I have a lot of hours in Siege too, and I haven't played it in so long either. Yeah, it's like everything's so personal. You're right. I like the way you phrase that, Corey. It's like everything's so personal in this game. Like, it's not. Like, why everybody in this game is so, they take everything personally. It's so wild. Dude, I will be in voice calls with people in the community, and they'll be like, oh, I faced so-and-so, and they said I was a tunneler. Yeah, fuck that guy. And I'm like, what? Oh, who cares? And like, they'll say it like they said something really awful. Like, I can't believe that content creator did that. You know what? I actually faced Scott Judd once, and he killed me at 4 gens. Yeah. Like, okay, like, well, why? Why does that matter? Why does that make the creator a bad person? Happens to me a lot too, Dizzy. I'll go back and forth between 2 people, and they're like, that was tunneling. I'm like, no, I was hooking between every single hook, the other person, so it's tunneling. With me, dude, that's one of the worst things about being in the Dead by Daylight community, is that, like, that minor aspect is, like, it's very clicky. It's very clicky. Like, behind the scenes, like, it's very clicky. Certain groups of creators hate other certain groups of creators. And I think that, like, Dead by Daylight, and this is true in a lot of spheres, but DBD is very much like a lot of communities are like a sub-community of another community, right? I'm fortunately in a situation where my overlaps are kind of from a bunch of different places, right? So it's kind of weird. We kind of get like a little melting pot of a lot of different people's communities. But you'll see like a group of like usually like 3 or 4 streamers, kind of like best buds, best friends, and they'll have their own little clique, and they have certain streamers that they don't like, that they don't want to interact with, and then they all get on the same page about disliking that person, whether they actually did anything wrong or not. And like I said, a lot of it boils down back to the video here of like, sometimes it's just like we were in a 4-man, we faced the streamer and he tunneled, so he's a bad cringe person. It's like, that's not enough to make somebody not worth supporting or being around. It's just a game. Chill, relax. Like, it's so weird. And it makes me nervous to like talk and interact with a lot of people, because like I never know when I'm going to stumble into one of those situations, you know, of like, we need to all be on the same page and hate a certain person. I'm like, I'm not going to hate that person unless they're a bad person. You can't make me. You know, like, who cares if they tunneled? Who cares if they gen rushed? Who cares? I don't care. What they do in the video game does not affect or reflect on their character in real life. Toxic Killer or Toxic Swift Gets Destroys video, yeah, that's like the tabloids of the DVD community. They're just like lowbrow, easy to make content, farm views easily. It's just kind of like both morally and intellectually bankrupt content. Yeah, it is what it is. Yeah, just be careful. Just be careful there, because TLDR, the way you play in a game does not make things personal. It shouldn't make things personal. People take it that way, and sadly this is not relegated to just like randos that you meet in the community. A lot of big creators and groups of creators do share this mentality of like, we all collectively don't like this person, or we collectively like this person, and it gets very clicky really quickly. Yeah, just watch out for those red flags, because they definitely are red flags. Do not ignore them. So good video though, great video. I was happy to be a part of it. Happy to be part of it, happy to be involved. And my match time is gen time.
I'm gonna leave a comment saying, hey, I know that guy.
Hey, I know that guy. Match time is gen time.